Hello, fellow bassists, and welcome back to the Bass Player University. I don't have a bass in my hands right now. And there's a really good reason for that, actually. And perhaps the thumbnail is giving some kind of a hint, but it's not about practicing without your bass. Sure, that's possible. But what about if you're on your way to the gig and you're trying to learn a song on the drive on the way to the gig? It is absolutely possible. It takes work. It takes some knowledge. It takes some, perhaps, singing. But there are ways to get things done without your instrument. You don't have to have the experience of being a guitarist or a piano player. Now, why do I mention those instruments? It's because they play chords primarily. And being able to play chords and understand how they usually sound is a very good thing as far as picking up how songs work and how your song might play. But at a certain level, it's actually more about you piecing together your bass line from what you're hearing from the guitarist and from the piano player. So let's just talk about a few things that kind of help me, at the very least, memorize tons of songs. Tons of songs with no paper and no notes or anything like that. And a lot of times no bass. So what's the approach, right? I mean, look, it's very hard to quantify all of this simply. It's not. I've been doing this for 30 years. So this is not exactly the easiest thing in the world. Now, have I been a master session player for 30 years? No. But I've been memorizing songs for over 30 years. I've been memorizing songs longer than that because I used to have songs memorized as a kid that I would sing along with or play the, sing the riffs. But learning them in order to play them really is quite different. And to be able to play one without ever having played it, now we're getting into the details of what it takes to be a master session player and a master gigger, let's call it. Because when you want to gig and be that dude, or dudette, it's hard. It's hard to keep the information alive. And here's the main reason. A lot of people either change keys or they have their own version of a song. I can't necessarily remember what song it was, but I was in approximately 10 or even more actual functioning bands at once at a certain time in my life. And 3 bands were playing the same song. And we had, you guessed it, 3 different versions. One of them took out the bridge. And it was actually me and a singer-guitarist type dude. So I think that makes sense in a certain way, right? That person had their own special version of it, didn't want to change it. And when you are gigging all the time, this is what happens. You have to make your own things that make sense for you as a player, especially when it's just you and a guitar usually. But the other 2 bands, one of them changed the key. And maybe it was something along the lines of there were 3 choruses at the end. They chopped the chorus off. The other band kept the same key, didn't change the format at all, but the rhythm was slightly different. So they had their own feel of the song. What do you do in this situation? Can you change the key of a song right now? As a bass player, it's really a lot easier than most other instruments, and we are lucky. We are very lucky, because if, let's say you're in F major, let's say you want to go to F sharp, you just move up a fret and play the same stuff. Theoretically, it's very simple. When it's tough, and we're not asking you to change the key on like Teen Town or something, right? Or Dean Town, whatever. That's another thing altogether, and that is another video altogether. But when you change your keys, the only times that I think it really is a bit troublesome, actually there's 2 instances. Instance number 1 is when you've been playing the song for 10 years straight, and now you're being asked to move everything up a fret. If you've been staring at dots and particularly shaping this a certain way on a certain bass with a certain tone, it is going to be a little tough if you're not if you're not what's the word I'm looking for? If you're not a genius at changing keys, if you're not a transposition master, or if you haven't had the experience, then, the theory won't be enough, or your theory won't be strong enough to make that an easy transition. The other instance where it's toughest is if the version you're familiar with, as a lot of rock songs are like this, has a lot of open strings. Now the translation's tougher. So how can you make this work? How did I make it work? How do I make it work, and how do I continue to make it work? Because I recently got back on my fingers Video Killed the Radio Star, for example, which is the very first music video, by the way. First thing that ever happened on MTV at midnight, when MTV started. Midnight, scenes of a guy on the moon putting the MTV flag, Video Killed the Radio Star. First music video. Are they trying to say something? Let's not go there. So, I learned the song, I get to the gig, I find out it's being played 1/2 step higher. The song is in E flat, we played it in E. It's in A flat, we played in A. So, it didn't matter too much. Thankfully, I'm just ready for that kind of thing. But there's a little opening line on a high fretless bass part played by the singer. He actually doesn't do the bass line in the song, but he's really, I totally forgot his name, which I feel bad about. But the singer for that song and the writer of that song, Video Killed the Radio Star, he is the singer of an entire Yes album. That's how amazingly talented this guy is, okay? If you didn't know and you've heard every Yes album, then you didn't even realize how much this guy ended up sounding like John Anderson. Anyway, the upper frets, I had the pattern, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about the notes, so it could have been a dead moment for me, but it wasn't. So, again, how do you do it? How can you just memorize a bunch of songs? How can you transpose a song on the fly? I'll tell you what is the killer of this, there's that word kill again, is paper. If you write out now I have another way around that, by the way. If you write out all your stuff, written notes, and you're not good at transposing it, you're pretty screwed. If you write a bunch of chord charts, you still need to be really, really good at transposing, because every chord will be off by that number of frets, by that number of half steps. If you wrote the song in G and they're playing it in A, every C is a D, every A flat is a B flat. You have to be good, you have to be quick. If you memorize the frets and there's not really any open strings, then you can just move the entire song up and hope that works. For simpler stuff, it's pretty easy. For more complicated things, like Video Killed the Radio Star, it's not a super advanced song, but it's definitely not an easy song to play. So you need to know your stuff. There's interesting little changes to the format. There's this thing, it happens once, twice, three times. Very interesting stuff. So you really do need to be on your game big time in order to make a song like that happen at a transpositional level. Transposing meaning that we are shifting the song from whatever key it's in into another key. Not to be confused with modulating, by the way. This is worth mentioning here at the university. Also, please sign up for my mailing list, and you'll be getting all kinds of stuff like this in paper form, and you can actually respond to it, so we can have a little back and forth. I also leave my email address and my phone number. Call me anytime, Let's talk. Let's see if the university is something that's right for you. I would say yes right away, but I also would love to see where you're at and see what your goals are and stuff. So, transposition means that you have taken a song and changed its key entirely, or at least its starting key. Modulating means that you change keys within a song, and the song does it. But transposition means you're totally throwing away the old and you got a brand new key. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm also not really what you would consider a singer. I can sing, okay. I actually sang, and as far as I'm being told quite well, I sang a Negro spiritual in college. I'm going to tell you about the coming of the judgment. Wait, what is it called? In that great getting up morning. And Interestingly enough, it was a thing where the main singer, which was me, would sing a part, and the chorus would respond, call and response, very common for this style. So it was kind of a lower tenor range for the main part, which is what I was singing. Which, if I sing very loudly, I'm good with that. But I am a bass singer. And then in between, the chorus did the bass parts. So I lightly sung the bass section of the chorus in between all of my parts. And the teacher was like, "Was that you? What are you doing, man? I don't know what you are anymore." So I can sing, sure I can, whatever. So can any actor, and it's me just acting. I'm not a singer. I'm really not. And although I've been asked to sing many times while playing bass, I am of the mind that bass plays such a different role. Now I could easily just show you a picture of Geddy Lee right now. Bass plays such a different role, or let's not even mention Primus at this point, that it's nice when you do get to focus on it. Now, clearly, and Yes is the best example, in my opinion, not Rush. Yes is the best example of a singer, of a bass player who is singing. He's singing backups the whole time. Chris Squire, thank you for everything you left us. I always say Jamerson is the man for me, but maybe it's Chris Squire. I tried so hard to emulate his sound, and I didn't even know that he was using a pick or anything like that. Thankfully, I was playing metal, so I could kind of hide under a wall of sound from the guitar and the drummer. Anyway, I'm not a singer, but the bottom line is that sometimes singers need to modulate. If a song is in D and the singer just can't reach it, the song might have to go to C. And that might mean you needing a 5-string bass. This is a very good reason for a 5-string bass. I just saw a thumbnail, and let me know if you know who I'm talking about, because I didn't watch it, but it said, here's why you shouldn't own a 5-string. I think that's insane if you're looking to gig. If you're looking to be that top 40 guy that can play in a wedding band, that can get called and play a gig that night with people you've never met, you have to have a 5-string. Do you really want to detune? Do you really want to play? Let's just throw a song out there that would be so clearly like, let's say Sledgehammer from Peter Gabriel, which is a really good song to learn, by the way. Note for note, perfectly like it's played. Because there's variations you want to know. Speaking of bass players, oh my God, Tony Levin. Okay, we're getting all the heavy hitters here. Tony Levin, Chris Squire. It's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff, okay? Leave a comment, please. Please, let me know how you feel about these bass players. If you want to play Sledgehammer, as is, with a 4-string, first of all, it was played on a 4-string with an octave pedal. So, fine. But if you're going to be heard at the octaves that are recorded, you need a 5-string. Otherwise, it's going to sound pretty weak. The main note is E flat. Are you going to detune to E flat? But then the first 2 hits that come in the chorus, dun, dun, that's a C and a D flat underneath the primary note of E flat. And not to mention that we get that very typical backdoor action where we get 1 and flat 7 right underneath it. Dun, do, 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 do. We're talking about 2 frets behind the main note. So if you're playing E flat, and let's say you tuned down to E flat, now you need the D flat underneath that E flat. Maybe I should have a bass in my hands right now. I see a 5-string right there. Sure, there's a 4-string in here also. Whoa, my God. Sorry. Production value, A+, thank you. So let's say you need all that. You have to have a 5-string. You have to. If you are used to playing a song in E, and a lot of songs are in E, aren't they? Because guitar is that. It's rock. It's not a pianist's world. It's a guitarist's world, whether that's good or bad. And if you have a singer who's not singing in E, if you're doing several songs sung by men and there's a female singer, you might be dropping keys a lot. If you are doing several songs performed by women and you got a male singer, you are either going up or down, depending on what's comfy for them. So you just don't know. You just don't know. You may need to raise your key or lower your key. And you don't want to keep detuning or have 5 basses on you that are all tuned differently. If a song is in dropped D, and there's ways that you bounce off the open string a lot, which is typical of that style. Who does it a lot? Tool, obviously, Iced Earth. There's bands that do it. And even a lot of like the earlier stuff from the 90s, like Helmet and other bands, there's a very obvious drop D thing going on. Maybe it's because guitarists can do power chords with one finger. Or maybe it's just because it was time for E to go away and fly away for good. Maybe it was, I don't know. So, yes, you can still drop D and keep your low B string, by the way, in case you were thinking about that or asking. Trust me, I've done it many times. So, don't forget, if you are new to this, I have a lifetime of metal under my belt. Don't let the Osric tentacle shirt fool you. Although the tentacles can get kind of heavy. And I do actually mean that literally. So let's get back to it now. How do you learn tons of songs? How do you get good at transposing on the fly? Even if you practice it in one key and then you get to the gig and then tell you it's in a new key. How can you learn a song in the car on the way to the gig? Other than repeated listenings over and over again, of course. I'm going to use a word I just used a lot. And this is number one. This is not the first and final answer. This is one of the answers. They're not in any particular order because I don't have any notes for this episode and I'm just going on the fly here. Singing. Being able to sing what you are playing is humongous. And I'm not just talking about rhythm. It's not just about rhythm. It's about being able to accurately represent the pitch that you're hearing. Now, there's a few reasons for this. But number one, and I've definitely talked about this in the university, is you can figure out your range and then match it to the range of your instrument. A lot of singers that are considered bass ones, one being a higher bass than a bass 2, if you are in that bass 1 low tenor range as a singer, which lucky you because some people really aren't and they're bass players and they don't sing bass, then you can actually, for the most part, sing every note available, at least in the first 12 frets. You can cover any bass line. You'll quickly find, if you don't do this on the regular, that things that guitars are good at, octaves, quick bouncy thirds and other things, are pretty tough to sing actually. Singing a scale is actually a lot easier. Oh, don't make me do it. I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not singing. So, if you do get good at singing, though, get good at what bass lines do. Get good at singing fifths. Get good at constant repetitive rhythms. Get good at close intervals. Get good at note length. Get good at singing bass lines. We're not going la da 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 da. We're not singing that stuff. And I'm singing like a fool on purpose, by the way, because that's not bass, and I don't care about stuff that isn't bass. This is the bass player university. You have to be able to sing your bass lines. If you have never tried, it's time. If you've been avoiding it for whatever reason, then you know you need to. And if you are doing it, do not stop. And utilize this to catch the keys of songs. You really should know what your open strings sound like, and you should get pretty good at basically everything else. It'd be good if you could have a reference pitch for almost any note. You don't need to have all 12 notes memorized, but if you can sing G, now you can grab your G sharp. I get my E and my G sharp and my B and my C sharp from Teen Town, actually. There's a little part after the middle where there's a little part in the middle. We get a lot of, and then it stops. Go ahead and test me. I just sang C sharp. All right. Boom, ba, da, da, da. Is it in tune? Sure it is. If I need a C sharp, I got it. If I need an E, there it is. I also have my E major triad from that. E, G sharp, B, E, C sharp, A, F sharp, E. Now I got the whole E major scale. Fine, you know what? My fourth was a little sharp, but otherwise, there you go. You should be able to sing do, re, mi from any note. Now, if you can do that, you can grab, again, any note. Let's say I want a D sharp right now. D sharp, you mean E flat? Whatever. I just sang an E major scale. I had a D sharp in there. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Do. I know it's hard not to sing the last one. There's your D sharp, right? So if a song throws a weird note at you, pause it. Sing around. Sing around. Find it. Find the note. Figure it out. Don't be lazy. You can figure out a song on the way to the gig. Hopefully it doesn't have that many chords. Hopefully the verse repeats, the chorus repeats. Maybe there's a bridge with some weird stuff. Probably starts from 4 or 5. It's a really oftenly done bridge trick. Or maybe it's James Brown, and maybe he says go to the bridge, and they go up a major third and do the whole thing from there. I don't know. They're all different. But a lot of times in rock, we don't get the major 7th. We get the flat 7th. It's not the major 7th. Sounds a little weird, right? That's why. Because it's not the major scale. When things leave the major scale, they have a very particular dissonance. These are the things you can start catching. Now, you may be familiar with some of this. You may have no idea what I'm talking about. You may not even realize this world exists. But guess what? This is why the greats can do what they do. And this is why I can do just about anything. And I say that with full confidence. I have done all that stuff. I've analyzed classical pieces. I've played classical piano. Sorry. I don't cough because it sucks. I cough because it hurts, man. And, you know, having a teacher stand over you, an old guy stand over you and watch you do it, right? It's a lot. I remember one time I had this little sequence to play. A sequence is a musical pattern that repeats by certain intervals. I'm not even going to sing one. Hold on. Maybe I should have plugged in a bass, right? No. Let's say that we do like... sequence. Same exact thing. Name that mode, by the way. Same exact thing, down 2 frets, down 2 frets. I did root 5th, 3rd, sharp 4, 2nd, back to the root. That is Lydian with sharp 4, by the way. So I just did Lydian mode thing. Hopefully it did sound weird. Picture the Simpsons theme. That is Lydian mode. So, now, did I answer any questions? I don't even think I answered any questions. Let me see if I can find a little more information for you before I'm done here. Yes, you should sing. But more importantly, you can actually get your range. It's my E. And I'm singing it a certain way so it's bassy. I'm not going meh, because that's not the right E. That's E. There's D. How much lower can we go? Depends on what time of day it is and how much soda I've drank, even though I don't drink soda anymore. Certainly used to. So you can judge what key the song is in. If you can't sing the note, perhaps it's a 5-string song and you're not able to sing that low. Or perhaps you're matching pitch. When you sing that, the E that I'm singing, this is the last time I'll whip it out. When you are singing a note that matches, you are 1 octave higher. When I sing, I'm actually singing this. See? When you are singing a note that matches, you need to go up an octave on the bass, and you'll actually get the note, the octave that you're singing, the correct octave. So do be careful about what octave you think you're singing. The bass is one octave lower than written. That's what we hear. We're typically singing the note on the page. The bass is being heard one octave lower, because most humans don't sing that low. Most of them. Are you an exception? Leave a comment. So singing, catching your range. Now you have a good idea, like, oh, that's a pretty low note. That's the bottom of my range. It's like an E, maybe it's a G, maybe it's an F sharp, maybe it's an F. Now you can establish what one is. This is really the most crucial element of learning any song. Establish one. Place yourself in that key. Put your middle finger right on that note. No open strings. If you use open strings, you're not thinking in key anymore, in my opinion. Put your finger on there. Why middle? Because at least for now, in the early goings of our musical lives, this is our major scale. Middle pinky pointer, ring, pinky. If you put your middle there, now you have the major scale. This means something very important. Almost any potential note that's in this song, and I'm talking about the roots of these chords that the bass line is passing through. We need to catch our roots. The rest of the bass line will make sense. We got to catch the roots as chords change. Put your middle there. The entire major scale is waiting. Chances are very good that the roots of these chords are within that shape. Now you don't have to shift as you're listening, as you're doing active listening, as it's called. You need a flat 7. Your middle is flat 7. You still don't have to shift. You shouldn't have to shift. So this gives us access to the notes that are probably in the song. And again, we're listening for the roots as chords change. Now we set ourselves up for expectation. 1, 4, 5, the blues. Chances are we have at least 1 and 5 somewhere. And if you'll watch my episode called Cadences, Know Your Finish Line, you will see that just about every song, or every progression, the order of the chords in any section of the song, they usually end on 5. So you already know what the first and last chord of the progression is. Fill in the rest. Is it minor? Is the chord sounding minor to you? It's probably the 2 or the 3 or the 6 chord. Is it major? It's probably 1 or flat 3 or 4 or 5 or flat 7. This is just what happens. Here's something totally weird. Maybe it's not within the realm of obvious, but it doesn't mean you can't find that note that is the root. You don't have to be able to label it as a flat 2 or as a tritone sub or any of that fancy stuff. You need to be able to quickly locate the root of the chord. If there's an entire bass line associated with it, it'll probably make a lot more sense if you can just bridge together the order of the roots of the chords. Because even fancy bass lines, as chord charts, are really just one chord per measure. And that is the other thing to look out for. What is the harmonic rhythm? Harmonic being chord harmony. If you can figure out how long each chord lasts in a song, you're already well on your way to figuring out how the rest of the song should go. Usually we get 1 or 2 chords per measure. 1 or 2 measures per chord. This leads to 4, 8, 12 measures in each section. And then we can figure out our progressions from there. Most songs don't veer very far from what they are. So this and a lot more, of course, can help us achieve learning a song on the fly. But if you can sing the roots, you can at least get a good idea of how fast the chords move, how much they move, and whether or not you're getting 1 and 5. When in doubt, pentatonic minor for the pattern that exists within the chord. Can't figure it out? It's probably something weird. Maybe it's a melodic minor thing or harmonic minor thing, or maybe it's just some mode, which means it's still a major scale. Not pentatonic minor because it's lazy, but because it works. It works when there's a drummer involved. It just locks in. So not going to deny it. It works. We don't want to fight that, but make sure no matter what you do, when you do put your hands on the instrument, don't complicate things. Oversimplify it. Make sure you don't have to shift as much. You'll be able to play the song quicker. You can reorganize yourself and find your perfect version after the gig. Now, this might be a part 1 of 2, but I think we've hit the 30-minute mark-ish. Let's call it, and let's say that I got to just lay it all out and talk. Musician to musician, bass player to bass player here. But there is no secret. There is no one perfect way to do all of this. The bottom line is that I can do it faster than a lot of other people, but I have expertise in this category. So until you do it a lot, you're not going to have the quick expertise. And that's the point. I don't just offer bass lessons. I offer services along the lines of writing out entire songs for you or recording songs for you. I can be your bass player, Doesn't matter where you live. But if you live near me, I'm in Kentucky-ish. If you live near me and you want a bass player, you let me know. I'll travel depending, of course, on the stipulations, but like, subscribe, share, join the mailing list. And if you are interested in joining the Bass Player University or private lessons, let me know. We'll talk about it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.